When magic, and the words exceptional starts a fire. I think, maybe. Don't quote me, actually. But when we as a human race have lived this long, we start to obsess over some things. Like money, dry humping cars, or even explosions. And Minecraft. And I'll be damned if I'm not a sucker for some cars. Weird intro for a mod showcase. Stop. Weird intro for a mod showcase, I know. But to cut straight to the chase, if you like anime of any sort, especially the big magic explosion ones, then you'll love this mod. Disclaimer, there are multiple things within this mod I most likely won't be able to cover. I'll leave better mod showcases in the description that'll do a way better job than me. And while you're there checking out their channels, why don't you subscribe to them too? It's free. Anyway, hey hello, it's me, Lupgost, or just a combination of both Loop and Ghost. Today's mod showcase? Or review of Mahou Tsukai, or Use Magic, or something along those lines. This mod, much like its name, it implements magic into Minecraft. As you can see on the top left hand corner, there's a coherent X and Y value representing your present mana and your max mana. To see your mana, you first have to draw a blood circle, which is easier than you might think. You can either go up here, or just any mountain that you might find in your world, and jump off and take some damage, which gives you the bleeding effect. Or you can use this trusty handmade dagger that you can craft via 2 iron and gold ingots, 2 purple dye, and 1 stick, and pressing M after right clicking it to make this a blood circle. Now that you have that down, let's speed through some things. Now that you know how to get started, you gotta learn some things first. Before doing any scrolls or spells, first things first is that Mahou Tsukai aims for a few general goals listed on their forge page. Avoid competing with functionality provided by other mods or vanilla. This means no magic bone meal or magic flint and steel or other type of items. Avoid spells which compete with other spells in the mod. No tiers, no progression except for mana. Every spell is unique in its own way and with a significant reason to use it. There's no growing out of spells in Mahou Tsukai. And last but not least, no world gem. Basically, meaning it's easier to add to pre-existing worlds. Now to perform magic, you're gonna need a few things. Mana, and 3 catalysts, which can be done by grinding up certain items via mortar and pestle, which are made of 4 diamonds, 2 bricks, and 2 sticks. Though this is optional, some spells require a cloth to turn into a scroll. This varies for whatever spell you need and the convenience for the specific purpose. Now to get to the flashy stuff. Out of the 7 spell categories, there are inevitably going to be a lot of spells, and I mean a lot. So I'll just show you guys some of my personal favorites. To start off, I'm going to cover Boundaries. Alarm Boundary is a spell where the cloth is optional, and it lets you know when something enters boundary, basically just like a regular burglar alarm, if you have that. Enclosure Boundary is pretty simple. The description on the forge page is for people too lazy to build bases, which is pretty accurate. It just basically raises the ground around the caster. Shut up, phone. Which is great for a quick base if you really need it. Tangible Boundary, which again has cloth optional, is an invisible barrier that lets you pass through, aka the caster, but lets nothing else go through. It's actually pretty cool. It's basically how it sounds. It's just a tangible barrier only towards you, the caster. Here's a note from the forge page. As of the 1.11.0 update of this mod, if a cloth is included, you can make a boundary scroll which allows you to place the boundary at a location quickly. Boundary scrolls do not cost mana to use, but the boundary they place does. And I have no idea what that means, but I feel like I just had to include it. Next is Ascension. Ascension, ironically, has a spell called Ascension. This spell has the option to have a cloth. It can basically just teleport you to the surface. Without a cloth though, it teleports anyone who steps on it to the surface. Each teleport costs mana, so you always have to keep that in mind. And next is probably one of the coolest spells in this mod, in my opinion. Scrying, which is a no cloth spell. This spell is used by dropping a name tag on top of the blood circle to be able to temporarily view your target, whether that be a player or a mob. And did I also mention that you can see its surroundings? Though it has some limits, you can't see tile entities, can't see other entities other than when you're scrying, doesn't work across dimensions, target must be loaded on the server, etc, as described on the forge page, but it should work in the same dimension. Next category is Mystic. The favorites in this category are pretty simple, besides the last one. First up, Mystic Staff of Spatial Disorientation. Basically, you put in the needed catalysts onto the cloth with a blood circle on it, and you get a staff, and it will be titled the Mystic Staff of Spatial Disorientation, and it's basically you can shoot people or entities really far. You aim at an entity just to throw one, and you can just aim at an empty block to throw everything near the block. Pretty easy. Borrowed Authority has to have a cloth required, and basically you just borrow powers from the god, or if you don't believe in gods, then just some powerful entities in the Minecraft world. If I'm not mistaken, you get like super speed and you can like punch things really far. So be careful using this. This next spell is going to be quite a long one, and forgive me, most of this is going to be straight from the Forge page. The next category is Mystic Eyes, and both spells require cloths. Mystic Eyes and Minor Clairvoyance just works how it sounds. It gives you Minor Clairvoyance. It lets you predict the movements of select entities, and doesn't work on angry skeletons when they strafe. Though on the Forge page, it does say it can be finicky. Next, Mystic Eyes of Face Sight. It basically allows you to see the Fae and ley lines, which conveniently segues into the next thing to cover, the Fae. Now, I know I said speed through some things, but that took like 5 minutes. So anyway, we're just gonna try and go super fast with this, because it's like been a week since I uploaded my last video, so I gotta speed through this to keep up with my upload schedule. The Fae or fairies are spirit-like creatures which spawn near ley lines. They'll follow other living things, and they drop Fae essence upon death, which we'll get into later. They can only be seen with Mystic Eyes of Face Sight. Fae are also breedable by feeding them any powder catalyst. Note, if you are unhappy with the spawn rate at which they are on your world or server, it is configurable. Ley lines connect certain points throughout the world. They can be seen with Mystic Eyes of Face Sight. Being near a ley line or ley point increases mana regeneration based on a percentage of your max mana. Ley lines also boost elytras, but will only boost you reliably if you fly along the ley line, not across it. Now, to cover what I said about Fae Essence. Fae Essence is basically another powdered catalyst that you can use to create spells, but this time, very uniquely, it can be used by anyone, and you can set an owner to it. Unlike if you made a spell out of a cloth, it would automatically be owned by you. Another note is that Fae Essence does not rely heavily on the user, allowing for potential automation of scroll creation through any means. Well, it says on the Forge page, through mechanical users and the like, but whatever it means. Okay, on to the last part. Mana circuits and Mahou Jin, or magic square projectors. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mana circuits are blocks which store mana. The mana can be used by the player when nearby as long as the player owns the block. Whoever right-clicks a mana circuit right after it is placed becomes the owner of the block. It's pretty simple to use a mana circuit. You right-click it to put mana into it, you shift right click it to turn it on or off. Scrolls also can use nearby mana circuits which are turned on, which belong to the player or caster. Boundaries can use nearby on mana circuits which belong to the owner of the boundary, even when players are not logged in. Players can charge gems using nearby mana circuits which belong to them, and last but not least, there are two variants of the mana circuit, but on the Forge page it says that there's really no difference between using either of them, it's just the aesthetics. Though you can configure both of them to have different storage capacities. Mahou Jin projector, mana square thing. This block is just purely decorative. It doesn't really do anything within your world. It's not like it's an awesome spell, but you can create magic circles for decorating your base, so it would look pretty nice and awesome and cool. And also, you can load images from a URL, which is kinda pog. Get it? Kind of pog. There's like a pog emote, and it's like pretty funny. Okay. For best results, make sure your image has transparency and is fully white so that colors can color properly. Yeah. You hear that? There are people laughing outside. Where'd the cat go? Okay, last part.